Hi guys, welcome to this session in Microsoft Excel. In this module, I want to show you how you can use the Power Pivot feature in Excel and also how you can create measures and KPIs once you've started using Power Pivot. So on the screen, I've got a blank spreadsheet. Now, if you haven't got Power Pivot on the top there as a tab, what you need to do is go to the Data tab and you need to click on this button, and what that will do will go to the Power Pivot window and activate it if it is not already activated, and then this tab will appear. Now what I want to do is bring 3 different files into this Excel Power Pivot window. What that will allow me to do is stop using VLOOKUP, for example, to look up for a unique identifier in another table and all the problems that causes with memory and things like that. What this will do, it will allow me to link tables together. So if I've got a unique identifier like a staff ID or a product ID, I can link those tables together and then pull off information from multiple tables. That's the plan. So what you need to do first off is to get the data into the Power Pivot window. There's a few different ways of doing that, but what I want to do is first of all show you the files. These are the source files. I've got a table there in that file called customers, products, and then the sales data is in a separate file. So let's assume that these have been dumped out from a system and you want to analyze the data in Power Pivot. So I'll just minimize that for a minute. Now, when you first of all click into the Power Pivot window, you've got this button there which says Manage, and I'll go into that now and it'll open up the Power Pivot window. And then you've got this bit here where it says Get External Data. Now if I just close this for a second, or I'll minimize it, move it out of the way. If you've got data already sitting on this sheet and it's on different sheets, you can just add each of the sheets to the data model and it will come up here as well. Now when you do that, it will format it as a table if you have not already formatted it as a table, so that will allow you to do it from one file with multiple sheets of information. But this example, I want to use multiple files, so I'm going for other sources. Lots of different connections already here. If you scroll right down to the bottom of this list, you've got Excel, so I'm going to click on that one and then go next, and then that's the connection. You don't have to change that. And now I'm going to browse for those files. So I've already just done that, so that's why this is here. I will get customers, open. It's asking me, is the first row column headers? Yes, it is. Tick that. Go next. And then it brings it in, and you can then just finish that off. So that brings that in, and then close this down. And there you go. That's the table. And then you just repeat the process for the other 2 tables. So just go down, use the same option. This time I'll get the second table, which is products. Tick that box because that is correct. Go next, and then finish, and then close. And then last but not least, I'll go and get the last table. So scroll down this list, get Excel, browse, sales data, yes. And you've got some different options there. You can test the connection. You've got advanced features. I'm not going to use those today. Even on this bit, you can preview the source data and filter it if you want. I'm okay with that, so just cancel and finish. And then that brings all 3 tables into the Power Pivot window. So sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 1, sheet 11, sheet 12. Doesn't make much sense, so I'm just going to name those. This is a customer. When you do this from a single file, I'll put customers. When you do it from a single file, these, if they're formatted as tables, these automatically get named whatever the table is called. This one's called products, so I'll just call that products. And then this one is sales data, just call it that. Click away. So they're all called with a meaningful name. Now what I want to do is link these up, create a relationship, a bit like a Microsoft Access database or other databases. You can have a relationship across multiple tables. and that will allow you in a pivot table to pull information from several tables. Now you've got over here on the right this view area, and in the middle there you've got diagram view. So there's the data there, look. So I just need to push these into the order I want them to sit. This is just for personal use. You can see all the fields, but if you had a few more columns, you could just expand these to make sure you can see everything. So now the customer, the unique identifier is a customer ID. So customer ID into sales, that will create what's called a one-to-many link. So basically, one customer can have many sales. And then from this one, the product ID field is in this table, coming across to product. So one product can be sold many times. So this table in the middle is basically a join table, and that's the links that I've created there. So if I now go to data view, you can see the data is still as it was. But what can we do now? Well, what we can do now is we can create formulas that will look across the tables and pull information in. For example, on this sales data table, I've got a set of numbers. I don't know what any of this is. So if I click into this column and just say, give it a title. So if I put cost price in there, I'll just put cost price as a title. What I will be able to do, looking at the other table, if I type equals, well, equals is already there for me. If I type the word related, which is a function that you can get there, I'll just double click on that. It gives me all these related tables. So I want the cost price, so that's the cost price from the products table. But because I've done that link, I can grab it here, and it should, when I close this bracket, bring the cost price in, and it drops it in there. So cost price of £300. Let's have a go back. Products, cost price is £300. That's right. So it's brought that in. And then you can then do calculations in here based on what the sale price was, maybe, or whatever else you want to bring in. So what I'll do there is I'll do cost price total, so I can work out what the cost price would have been. So now I should be able to refer to this quantity there, so I can go equals and then cost price, just cost price. As soon as I start typing cost price, you get the options coming up, times quantity. Again, I'll just type QTY, quantity comes up, and then I'll tick that, and it drops it in there. So this person, 2 items at £300, £600 total cost price. Now the sales price has already got, it's sitting in products, so obviously a markup of sales price. So what I want to do now is do the same thing for the sales price, just to go over this again. Really, you don't have to do this, it's just showing you different options. So I'll just call this sales price. So this is the related one again, so I'll click into this. So this is a related, I'm pulling information from a different table, so related, and I want the sale price, that one from products, and I'll do, and then I'll do the same formula, needs a close bracket, I'll do the same formula that I did on the other one. So this will just be the total sale price, I'll call it that way around, total sale price. So just adding these extra things in, which then can become part of your pivot table. So this is going to be, if I click up here, sales price times quantity again, QTY, quantity, click the tick, or press enter, and it drops it down. So that's the actual sale price. And then if you want, you can do that minus that, which is your profit. So if I'll just do one more, profit, and then it's going to be total sale price, total sales price minus cost. Cost price total. Tick. So that should be £100 and it is £100. So that's just how you do formulas in the Power Pivot window. So all that's now sitting in this particular table. Now if I close this down for a second, come back to this, we have got measures and KPIs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a pivot table based from here. I could go insert pivot table and it would allow me to pull all the information through, but you've actually got that functionality in manage. So there, pivot table. So I'll drop that down. I'll create it on a new worksheet. And then you get the three tables coming in. So you can build up the pivot table however you want. So for example, if you wanted customer name in rows, that'll give you a list of customer. And then you've got the options of all these other fields from all these other tables to bring them in. It's totally up to you how you want to structure this, but I want to focus on creating a measure and a KPI, so that's what I'm going to do. I'll build a pivot table up and then do some measures. So let's just put some information in here. So from the sales data, I've got the total sales price. I'll just put that in there. So this is what these customers have actually spent. Now, if you want the customer ID, so you know who's who, your customer ID field, if I just sit that above there, that's got ID 1, he spent that. What was the quantity? So sales quantity, if I come down and put that in there, tells you how many items that they've bought. And then you can just sort this if you want. It's in customer ID order, but you could also sort this in value or quantity order. It's totally up to you. So that's how you can manipulate a pivot table. Now, what you have to do to do a measure is there's two ways of doing it. You can do a measure in the Power Pivot window through there, or you can just create it here, new measure, and it will allow you to select the table that you want to do the measure on, and then you can name the measure. So I'll do it on the customers. I want to know how many customers I have. So measure 1, I'll just call that number of customers, but you can call it whatever you want. Measure 1 is not great. So basically you then have to work out what the formula is for the number of customers. So there is quite a few different count functions. I want to use the distinctive count. So I've typed DIS and that's the one I want. And then you've got all the lists there, customer ID number. So that's the one I'm going to go for. Count the customer IDs, unique. That's it. I'm going to click OK to that. And then, okay, it doesn't like that because I forgot the close bracket, which is something I keep doing. So in Excel itself, you can get away with not closing the bracket at the end. Then it just suddenly it still does the formula, but this is a bit more finicky in the fact you physically have to close the bracket, otherwise it's not liking it. You can click check formula, no errors in formula. So that's going to count that. If I click OK to that one, now it's put that in there. I don't really want that in there because obviously there's just one of each of these customers, so I'll just get that out of there. And where I see that, obviously you can see it there with the little FX next to it. But if I go back into manage and go into customers, you can see that sitting at the bottom there. So that's how it would sit and measure. Just widen that, and it's just telling me that I've got 9 customers in this list, and you can see that with the 1 to 9. That's all that's what I wanted to do. Now, what I also want to do is you can do a measure in here. Depends on what you want. You can just type it in here. It's basically going to go across the top there, and then it will sit down there. So it's both ways you can do it. So I'm on the sales data table. I'm going to do the same function or the same formula again to work out the number of distinct customers. So I'm typing equals distinct count, and it'll give me the option to count customer number again. Close my bracket, and that should come back with 9. Comes back with 9, and I'll call that, instead of measure 1, I'll just call that number of customers. Do it like that with a capital letter, it's easier to read. and then I'll just tick that. So now I've got my figure there. I'll just widen this column. First step is to create a measure that will total up or tell me what the whole profit in this line is. So let's go up here and type equals sum, open bracket, and then you've got all your fields there. If I come down, there's one called profit, that one, sum profit, close the bracket, click the tick, and then that sits underneath. Measure 1, I'll just call this total profit, total profit. That's what, tick that. So that's that. Now it's not formatted to anything, so let's put it into pounds. So we've got a total profit of 2,500. Just highlight all of these. Let's just copy these and just drop them into a spreadsheet like so. 2,555. So everything's good. We've got the same what we would have in Excel. So that's added that up correctly. Now what I want to do now, so I've got 9 customers and that's the total of all the profit. If you want to know what the average profit is, you can just type equals again, and then you just use these two. So I'll type total profit, comes up, double click on that, divided by, and then number of customers, like so, total profit, number of customers, tick that, and that drops that in. Format that to pounds, so that's the average profit per customer, the average of these, and measure 1, so we'll call that average profit, average profit. Now I'm not putting spaces, but you can put spaces, it's just the way I like to do that. So those are 3 measures that we've got in there. So you can create the measures by just typing them down here or up there, or you can do the measures, if I close this window, or you can do the measures in the actual spreadsheets through there. So it's up to you where you do it. Manage measures, which should show you all your measures that you've already done. Just close that. And then once you've got measures, you can create KPIs. So this is the pivot table that I did earlier with the fields in it. And you can manipulate this if you want, and you can change these labels as well, as long as you don't use the same name as a column or field. So for example, I could just put products there. In fact, it's not products, it's customers. So that's going to be customers, just giving it a title like so, and you can change these just to tidy that up. But the KPIs have to be based on a measure, so you cannot do a KPI until you've created a measure. So if I go into KPIs, new KPI, let's have a look at this. So what you've got at the top there is what you're going to base it on. So you've got number of customers, total profit, average profit. Those are the things that we created. And then you've got a measures. There's the measures we did, and then you can put an absolute value in there. So I'm going to create a KPI on this little pivot table to show you how to do that. Select new KPI. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to set this on total profit, based on total profit, and I'm not going to use the measures. I'm just going to put an absolute value and say £200 in there. As soon as I click out of that, this little bar will reflect that, and you can slide this up. So that's the actual target. So if I say green goes there, we can be a bit more. Let's put that to 100. So anything lower than £100 profit is not great. You need to be working on it. Anywhere in there is okay-ish, but ideally you'd be over 200. And then you just click OK on that, and then you'll get an extra column that pops up. And if you scroll down in your pivot table near to the bottom, you get this extra traffic light symbol tipping up. And if I tick that on, it shows you what the actual profit for that transaction was. So you can see that some of these aren't over 200, but quite a few are. Now, if I take the status off and then back on, you get the actual traffic light symbol showing up there. You don't have to show that if you don't want. You can just have the traffic light symbol, but I think it's quite useful to have that. So if I put that on first, that's your total profit on those sales, and that is whether you're hitting that KPI or not. In this case, £200 profit. So the green ones are obviously making it, the amber ones are near it, and the red ones are under. So that's how you set a simple KPI. But you have to have created a measure first, then you can create a KPI, either a fixed one like I've done there, or a KPI based on a measure itself. So that's all I want to talk about in this little video. Bear in mind, when you're working with pivot tables, I'm sure you know that you still need to refresh the data, and this time it's going to pull data in from 3 separate files, and that might take a little while depending how big the files are, so you still will have to refresh the data if any of the source files changes. But that's all I want to talk about. How to use powerpivot, how to get your information into the powerpivot window, how to manipulate it, create formulas, how to then link it up, create a relationship across tables, and then base a pivot table on multiple tables, and finally how to create measures and KPIs. So hopefully this has been of use. Thank you for your time, and I'll catch you on the next one.